Cheers, everybody. I'm here on a late Sunday, following up on Self Management Saturday, mixed in with a little self care Sunday. And I want to start with Self Management Saturday. So let's just do a quick check in. For those of you that have been watching and following these Self Management Saturdays, what's going on? We need to check in, send me a DM, put some comments in the post below or wherever you put the damn comments, and let's get some feedback, because without feedback, how do we know how well we're progressing? And that's part of self-management, is that feedback. How are you feeling? Are you still feeling burnt out? Still feeling tired? What's going on in your head? What kind of thoughts have been coming up? Let's kind of just do a quick check-in, a quick review. If you were just to generally, let's just go over the past 7 days. What were the dominant thoughts? The ones 60, 70, 80% of the time. Did you feel like you were stressed out? Did you feel like you were tired, burned out, angry, depressed, worried, fearful, concerned? Or do you feel like generally overall, man, it was a pretty good week? And yep, there were some challenges, but I felt that I had managed them a little bit more appropriately. So it's that easy, just that simple of a quick check-in. If I was to ask you, was it good or bad? So there's probably a little bit heavier. So just weigh that out. Was it 40-60, 50-50, 80-20, and identify that. Good markers, feedback, because then we can use that as indicators of how we're pushing the needle. Are we going more to where we want to go, or is it just falling back into where we don't want to be? Now, today I want to talk about change, and I want to talk about leverage. I'm going to keep this one super short. I'm going to try not to go over maybe 7 minutes here. Let's see if we can keep it under that. And I do that because there's just so much. I really want to provide that much value to you. I don't want to just keep things too short and a short, a YouTube short, or an Instagram short, or whatever they are, and just like, oh yeah, that's cool, but I'm going to just go a little bit more in depth with you, if you don't mind. If you do mind, let me know. If you like the shorts, then I can try to keep them short too, or at least cut some segments out. So talking about change and leverage. So change is never a matter of ability. It's always a matter of will. Are you willing to change? And you might say, yeah, of course. That's why I'm watching these videos, because I really want to change. Well, being willing is a huge part of it. Have you ever quit something in the past? There's something like you quit smoking, you cut out sugar, you quit alcohol. There was a relationship, that was no good for you, and you decided, I need to leave, I need to get out, a job that you needed to get out of. And you always had the ability to leave. You always had the ability to change. You always had the ability to move on, but you didn't until you were really willing and ready to. Now, with that in mind, is the key point I want to talk about today is leverage, because this is really the key indicator to change. Now, before I get on that, I want to remind you of a couple topics we talked about in the past, which is our beliefs. Do you believe that if you make the change that you can maintain it, or that it's sustainable? Do you really believe that? So ask yourself, what is the change that I want to make? What's the change I've been thinking about making? And if you don't know, if you pretended that you knew what an area that you wanted to make a change, it doesn't have to be a huge change. I'm not asking you to give up anything, but if you're wanting to make just a small change, what would that be? Even if it was just your morning routine, if it was to change from coffee to tea in the morning, if you were just to change routes because traffic sucks and you've just been concerned about which route to take. And we stay with what we know, right? We're familiar with the discomfort about it more than really entertaining, okay, at least I can entertain some uncertainty, take a different route and just see how that goes. But a lot of times we'll just stay with what we know, no matter how uncomfortable it is, because we're familiar with it. We can predict it. It meets needs. It meets our human needs of security, predictability, stability. certainty. I don't know which one I just repeated a couple of times. So, what's a change you want to make? And do you believe that by making the change that you can sustain it? And another key thing, I hope you're taking notes here because I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but this just popped up. I felt it was necessary to share. Something that I've learned is you can be quick to make a decision. They say slow to change your mind, but it doesn't mean that you can't be flexible in your approach. So let's say in making this change, you want to make a change. Let's just say it's taking a route to work. And especially if you live in LA or near a busy city and traffic sucks. And you just want to change things up, you're tired of sitting in traffic, you want to look for an alternative route, but you're comfortable with this one, you know how it goes. And you want to make a change, but you're uncertain of these different routes. Or maybe you're stuck in traffic and your GPS is telling you to take this other route and you're suspicious of it. So let's say that you finally go, okay, I'm going to check it out. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So let's say you take that route and it's not any better. Well, change your approach. Maybe take a different route, or you can go back on the same route and then you can find another route eventually. So the goal is, where do I want to be? So by making this change, where is it that I want to be? I'm definitely not going to keep this under 7 minutes. It's already 6.5 minutes. By making this change, what is the goal? Where do I want to be? What's my outcome? And that's the important part. So I can decide to make this change. I know my outcome. I know where it is from where I am. Let's put it down here to where I want to be, which is up here. And if I make this change and something doesn't work, it doesn't mean that the change didn't work. It just means I got to change my approach and keep changing my approach and keep changing my approach until I get there. So that should take some weight off your shoulders, because we think if we make this change, it's going to be this hard, rigid change, and I'm going to have to stay in this lane, and that I can't change lanes. I got to just stay here, and that's not true. As long as you know what your outcome is, then you just got to be flexible in how you get there. So you can change your approach, and you'll just keep on changing. Okay, so one, beliefs. What is the change that I want to make? Do I believe that by making this change, I can maintain it? And hopefully that last segment was helpful in alleviating any uncertainty or worry or concern about if it is maintainable or sustainable. And then second is leverage. This is the key freaking thing, man. Leverage, leverage, leverage. When I quit smoking, it was leverage. It was, I shared that in a video. It was sharing with my dad that if I smoked a cigarette, I was going to give him $100, and then $200, and then $4, and then $8, and geometrically increasing. $100 was enough pain for me to just go, I'm not smoking. It was large enough or small enough that I can make the commitment. If I made $20, too easy, I can give $20 away. $500, no way I would have made the commitment. $100 was that sweet spot. So leverage is, what is the pain point in your life that by deciding to make this change, committing to it, and I'm going to just touch on that in a minute too, commitment. By deciding to make the change, committing to that change, and I really want to do this, like I feel like I'm willing to go ahead and take that leap. But in order to make sure that I'm moving in the right direction, what is a pain point, something that's so painful I do not want to experience if I decided to go back on my word? What is that for you? So by making the decision to change, what is my leverage point for you? So again, if it's diet, what's a decision that you're going to commit to that if you go back on your word, it's going to be extremely painful for you? And again, with sharing our goals with important people, not with everybody, but with a key important person to hold you accountable. So if it's your word, and by giving someone your word, let's say you have children and you want to live long enough to see your children grow up and you want them to be healthy, and you need to make this change first. Maybe you got some heart condition going on, and the doctor said you got to cut out sugar or smoking because you're not going to live long enough. And so you give your kids your word, right? And you want your kids to look up to you and honor you. So those are the things. Just what is your leverage point? And I want to wrap this up at that point. The last thing was just commitment. I want to talk about commitment because I want to share an example with you. So here's how leverage and commitment works. So back in December, I signed up for a program. It was a $1 million revenue challenge through Grant Cardone. And I had a coach, so the program came with a coach. Well, before we got started, there was a pre-workshop. I think it was a sales or marketing workshop. And Big Brother Dave Robards gave us a homework assignment at the end of the workshop. And he said, tonight, before midnight, this was like, workshop went till 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon already. You have to go out and ask 5 people that you do not know. It was very key that you do not know. You have to ask them how old they are and what their income was for the previous year. Sounds pretty scary. Well, it was. So I thought, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I go to the grocery store. I had to go to the grocery store anyway. And I'm asking the security guard. And then there was 3 other employees that worked there. So I got 4 people in the grocery store. And as uncomfortable as it was, I got it out. I said, hey, can I ask you a quick question? Say, yeah, sure. Like, how old are you? And they're like, kind of like, why are you asking? This old? How old do you think I am? I hate when people ask that. And then the other question was, how much did you make last year? And everybody is kind of like, whoa, like, why are you asking this? Are you approaching me for a job opportunity? Like, what's going on? And, but I did it. But there was still one person left, and I didn't ask. So then the next day, I went back and I reported I wasn't committed. Grant Cardone always talks about you got to commit before you do the work. Make the commitment. And I caught that. I wasn't committed. I wasn't fully committed. I was committed to a certain level, but I was not fully committed. Do you get that? So I share that story, hopefully that you can find some relevance to your own journey moving forward, that you will decide to fully commit no matter what. Because if you're not fully committed, you're just partially committed, you're not going to give it your best. I didn't give it my best. The second part of that story was leverage. And working with my coach, and he kept telling me, you got to make your sales calls. You got to make your sales calls. And I kept putting them off and putting them off and putting them off. And so finally I told him, I said, okay, I'm going to make 100 sales calls. And it was like a few days left in the week. I said, I'll make 100 calls by, our next coaching session. And if I don't, then I'll donate $100 to Grant's foundation. And I didn't have a lot of money, so I needed to make those calls. And I made them. And I made even a few extra because I didn't want to just meet the minimum. Even though there was a few extra, I probably could have made more extra, but I at least made a little bit over that minimum. And so that's leverage. That's the power of leverage. All right. So for self-management Saturday, what is the change that I want to make? Do I believe that by making this change that I can maintain it and that it's sustainable? Keeping in mind that all I have to do is just change my approach in the meantime. At least I know what my goal is. And then 3 is, that was this finger here was 1A. The third thing, or 2A, third thing, leverage. Get leverage. Find the pain in your life that's going to move you forward. That's going to be so painful that you think, if I do this, then I already committed. Doing this other thing, it's going to be way more painful doing that than not taking the uncomfortable action. And then lastly is commitment. So just commit. Decide ahead of time. Remember my story and think ahead on your journey that if you don't fully commit, how easy it will be for you to not play at 100%. This is self-management. This is what we're working on. Making the changes in our life that are going to help us grow, that are going to contribute to our own well-being, that are going to contribute to our family and friends and community's well-being. And we got to learn how to manage how we're operating through this. How am I feeling? How am I feeling through the uncomfort, the discomfort? All right. And a little bit of self-care Sunday. Have these check-ins with yourself. The feedback and the measurement, constantly reviewing, at least once a week. The more you measure, the better, because the more you can see your levels, if you're higher or lower. It's kind of like if you set your New Year's resolution January 1st and then you didn't check in until December. There's a lot of play in between, but if you checked in monthly and then you checked in weekly to see how you were progressing, then you know, am I taking the actions I need to take? Am I feeling the way that I need to feel? So for Self-Care Sunday, maybe even a few times a week, Monday, Wednesday, or maybe Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, something, whatever it is for you. Let's just check in regularly. How am I feeling? Was what I'm doing working? Am I taking the action? Am I making the changes or not? And I'm going to leave you with something that Steve Jobs said, and I'm just paraphrasing him, but something that's been meaningful to me is he said that every day he would look himself in the mirror and he would ask, am I happy? And if the answer was no for too many days in a row, then he knew that he needed to make a change. So that's how frequent he was checking in. Every day he was looking in the mirror. Am I happy? Am I happy? Am I happy? If too many no's went by, he knew that he needed to make a change. So keep that in mind. Share your comments, please. I really want to know how you're receiving these messages. I want to know what you're going through so I can cater these messages more toward your specific experiences, your journeys, your feelings, and be more specific to who is watching these videos. All right, so please leave some comments, send me a DM, and keep it up. We're committed, here to help. Talk to you guys soon. Cheers.